Hey guys, it's Mott
and Nick.
So we're here to garnish your growth. This is our very first episode. You want to call it an episode?
Yeah.
All right, so it's our very first segment or episode inside of Garnishing Your Growth. So what you can come to expect from us delivering this Garnish Your Growth is truth, honesty, transparency. All that part. That part. And also just taking in some of our personal and professional experiences inside of the salon industry as moms, as two people. Two people. We used to do a segment like this on Instagram Live every Friday for almost a year, and it just became part of our culture, and inside of us talking to you about all the things, I really feel like me and her learned a lot about each other.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. So inside of today's topic, we're going to be going through the double-edged side of growth. So I don't know how many of you guys have really felt like this before. I'm assuming a lot. That as you continue to know more, you do more, you are aware of more, and then inside of your growth, there almost feels like there are so many bumps, so many obstacles. You just want to freaking grow, like you just want to do better inside of your life, and why there is a double-edged sword to growth. I would say one of the first things inside of growth is becoming aware. That was something inside of Garnish when I first met Niko that I used to talk to her a lot about. And if you don't already know, I am Candice. I own Garnish Extension Studio here in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is my lead stylist.
Niko, I was not always the lead. I started at the bottom.
She was the baby for so long. And one of the things that we do here inside of Garnish to produce the culture that we create is to have monthly and quarterly check-ins, not just about work and numbers and all of the metrics inside of doing hair, but really just checking in on like you, like, hey girl,
how you doing?
How you doing? Like, how are you as a person? Like, I really don't feel like inside of a professional space that the professionalism in 2019 is the same as it was in 2005.
Yeah, and I think too in our industry, we work in a salon. It's a very small, tight-knit group. You know, the break room is small. You're with these people every single day, all day long. You talk about life. Like, you talk about things that maybe in a corporate setting you don't really talk to your people that you work with about. But here it's like you get the call right in front of the person that you work with. So they hear everything.
Definitely. And one of the things that kind of comes along with that inside of being a creative, I'll kind of like create this container of creative professionals. So hairstylists, tattoo artists, filming industry leaders, everybody that is inside of a creative field, you still have this mix of like professional and personal. But like I was saying earlier, it's very different nowadays in order to create that really good seamless kind of like blend and merge of two. If you're too professional, I think as a leader, as a boss, as somebody that, you know, this is my space, I'm very protective over it. And I really want to make sure that everybody that comes into my space that works here or that comes in and gets their extensions done with us, they feel good. And it's really hard to do that if you personally don't feel good. The double-edged side of growth, we wanted to bring a little bit of awareness around why we feel that there are two sides to growth and really what to expect inside of being in a growth mindset and inside of an environment that produces growth. So I want you to hit the first one.
The awareness.
The awareness.
I think awareness is a double-edged sword in the fact that it's awesome to learn all these new things about yourself and all these like different ways that you can grow. But it's also very hard to hear constructive criticism sometimes, or things that you thought you were excelling in that really you haven't been doing correctly, or there's other ways to do it in a more effective way. So I think with awareness, it's like your mind goes like, poof. At the same time, you have to stomach all the things that you actually need to work on and change.
It can be so hard for everyone. It can be so hard to hear, to have somebody hand you your areas of opportunity, but to be able to swallow those, to actually make the change inside of somebody presenting that to you, that's a dance all in itself.
But I feel like that's the first step, because if you can swallow them and if you can handle it and be like, just take it with a grain of salt, man, and be like, all right, she's right, or she sees something that I may have missed. Let me change this. If you can change that, like, you're on the path.
Absolutely. And then we get to what I would deem the cut. Once you become aware of your areas of opportunity, whether it's professional or personal, sometimes the personal one is really hard to digest. But once you become aware, that awareness leads you to start really seeing things differently.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I agree.
Like, once you see something, you can't unsee it. Once you learn how to read, words on pages actually mean something. You can never go back to when you were 4, when it was just on the page, just letters. So once you become aware, you start to notice things inside of the life that you have that really aren't working. And then with that, because you are aware and you are trying to grow, it needs to happen.
Yeah.
So certain things
or
are going to...
it just happens on its own.
Or it just happens on its own.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared for that inside of growth, where you know that certain things are going to change, because for you to get from where you are now to where you want to be, what you've been doing has created your environment inside of where you are. So if you don't actually want to be there anymore and you want to remove yourself and then plug into another opportunity, that's going to take you actually removing yourself.
Yeah.
And that's something that I had to come to a hard realization about when I decided to change my studio over from a full service studio. So a little bit about Garnish. Garnish is a extension studio, which means that we service extension guests. We still do cuts, colors, beautiful creative services, keratin treatments.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that. That's the first thing people say. You don't cut hair anymore?
But we do. We just gear all of these services towards extension guests. So if you have or want extensions, this is going to be a hub for you to get all of your regular services done inside of one space with stylists that are experts in working with and handling extensions.
So we specialize in.
How did we get there, though? When I first opened up Garnish 5 years ago, we were definitely not inside of the space. We were full service. We did everyone and anyone, men, children,
whole family. Bring your whole
bring
family.
your whole ass family. We'll cut everybody up.
We'd have like kids taking naps on this couch.
Yeah, there's probably tears on this couch. They were like, we're ready to go. So like, we were full service, and then I became aware. I took a coaching class across the country. Inside of a method called NBR, and I went there to learn extensions, but man, what I got was so much more. I saw a completely different vision for myself, my life, my studio, and it really, really made me want to niche down. Instead of offering everything to everyone, cutting some of the services and really just specializing in one area, so that way I can be an expert inside of this one area for the women that needed me, which meant that I had to say goodbye to a lot of services, aka people, that I had been doing hair for, I've been doing hair for 18 years, and I've been specializing in extensions for the last 12. I say specializing loosely because I was doing everything else underneath the sun. But really for the last, I'd say 4.5 to 5 years, I've only been doing extensions personally, but I had not yet committed my entire studio and space to just moving in that direction also. So once I became aware that that's the path I wanted to move down, I really had to start having some hard conversations with guests, with stylists, with a lot of people that I didn't necessarily want to say goodbye to in my life, but the call for me to do something bigger really forced me down a path of change, and it wasn't easy. No. It wasn't easy.
And I think an important thing to remember, like, out of this story, because yes, we're a salon, but to like put it into anyone's life, when you are aware and you're going to make a change, just because someone is super sweet and amazing and whatever, if you are moving into a new space, even though whatever that is amazing, that sometimes has to get cut. Like, it's just part of the process. So it doesn't have to be negative things. Sometimes it's positive things that you have to let go of too, because you have a different vision now.
Anything that you are wanting to happen inside of your life and space, you can create a goal out of, right? So you have this goal inside of where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do. And anything that does not lead you down the path into said goal doesn't need to have as much energy poured into it, if any at all. which is what Niko is saying, that it's not always necessarily a bad thing that you're saying goodbye to. Some of my favorite people that I have met, that I've worked with in the last 18 years, unfortunately, I don't get an opportunity to really talk to those women anymore because they were not in need of the service that I was really trying to specialize in. So you talk about hard, you talk about grueling, you talk about tears being shed, you talk about like feeling so guilty, like, am I making the right decision? Am I making the right choice? Holy shit, she actually yelled at me as she was leaving, and I'm like
the longest breakup ever.
It is. I just feel like that being the second part, which is the cut, is probably one of the hardest things inside of growth. It just is. People don't like change, and people often blame when there is change, and that can also be super intimidating.
Yeah.
Next, I would say, comes the pit.
Yeah, because after a breakup, you're set.
After a breakup, you set AF. So whenever you get past the cut and you've kind of like worked your way through the cloud, then I feel like there's a period of isolation.
Yeah, you're lonely.
You're lonely. Things are in the process of changing. As soon as you make a change, that change being made doesn't instinctively like have the next phase come around.
Ruthlessly committed to the end goal.
Ruthlessly committed through what is it called? Hearsay? Hearsay, gossip.
Yeah, okay.
Shit talk.
Now you got me.
Yeah, shit
Yeah.
talk. Shit talk.
Shit talk, yeah.
Gotta speak Niko's language. People talking shit, girl.
People do talk shit. And I think, too, just like realizing that not everyone's going to see the vision. Maybe no one else will see the vision, but you still have to stay committed to it because it's your vision.
It's your vision for your life. So being inside of that pit, that isolated place, can sometimes make you run back in the same direction that you came from, you know, before you made the cut, before you were aware, because there's fear.
Yeah.
And I think fear swallows up more people than failure. Truly. Like, if I can count on one hand the number of people that truly put their heart and soul into something and failed versus the people that were so scared shitless that they never even started, it's a one-sided scale. I mean, there's so many people that just stop in their tracks because it gets scary. It gets really scary. If you're scared,
do it scared.
Do it fucking scared. Just do it. Go the distance. You're worth it. Keep on pushing. Do something different to change your life. And it's not a change that's easy.
Yeah.
If it were easy, everybody would do it.
Well, it's like changing your life. Like, I know we say it lightly, but it truly is. Like, you only have one life to live. This is all you got. It's right here, and you're in complete control of it. So if this is something you truly want to go after, it's going to suck at times.
Definitely at times. I would say after the full pit of you just kind of being isolated, you're in your feelings, I would say there's a rise. So wherever there's a void, there's a space, you've cut things. It's amazing what the power of manifestation will do. If you can see it and you write it down, you're writing down everything, you're manifesting it, you're putting it into the universe.
Details, all the details.
Tons of details. That space now gets filled with other people and or things that really are connected to your end goal, your vision, the things that you're attracting, because now you're putting that out into the universe. You will be so shocked pleasantly when you look up and what once was isolation after the cut is now being filled. There's opportunity that comes down the pipeline. There's things that you would never have dreamed that would come your way that start happening to you.
But will not happen if you don't make space for them.
Creating the space is the really scary part. So once you can kind of get through that and you really start to put out into the universe, be vocal about it. Don't be shy, don't be timid. This is your life.
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared. Put it out there. Once you do that, it starts to become a very addictive cycle because you see exactly what the growth will do. And it, again, kind of takes you through a stream of emotions. But at the end, you start to really fill up some of those voids in space with a lot of opportunity and then a lot of different people that kind of have the same mindset, which is something that I love. Coming into work now is completely different than it was before. Not to say before was bad. Before was great because that's where my ceiling was. I had reached it. And then here I am going into my 5th year in business with a completely different business model, completely different guests. I have the luxury and the pleasure, and I'm so grateful to be able to say this. Every single woman that comes into my business, I get to touch and affect in such a different way than how I did 3 years ago when I was maybe just coloring somebody's gray and like putting some beautiful layers around their face. That was so fulfilling for so long. But giving a woman back the hair that she lost after having a baby, going through cancer treatments, and to be able to offer those women a little bit of like sanctitude inside of what they're looking for. Hair for us is connected to our confidence.
Yeah.
So to be able to say that every single woman that comes in here, I have the pleasure of working with, and now I have a team that is completely committed and on board, and we all are doing it for the same reasons. There's a lot of integrity in my space. Everybody is honest, Abe, when it comes to what their abilities are, what they can do, and everybody is like-minded to be able to produce that. And Niko, again, is the lead inside of my space, helping me to course correct, helping me to train, helping me to really like check all the dots. What is it? Dot all the dots?
Check top.
Top
all the
no,
it's not top.
You dot the
I
dots
lost it.
and you cross the T's.
You caught me off guard when you asked me that.
She's here to do all the things. But it's amazing that that kind of cycle happens, and then before you know it, here we are again, and it's time to grow some more.
Oh no.
Which is exactly why I said it's a double-edged sword, because I feel like the constant change and evolution sounds amazing, but at the end of the day, that just means that there's a whole nother growth cycle waiting. You never get to the ceiling.
No, there is no ceiling. There is no ceiling. I feel like you posted that video of this dude who had the big rock and he's like pushing it up the hill, and he's like in every single way, shape, or form trying to push it up the hill. And you're like, finally, he's like getting to the top. And he like pushes it and he stops. You know, there's like a little cliff. And then he's like taking a breather.
Looks up.
But then he looks up and there's like more hill to push the rock up. And that is really frustrating to think about when you go through all of these steps and you go through all this pain and all this cut and you get like this much amazing feelings. And then you're like, this much, these much amazing?
This much?
You get great feelings. And then you're like, all right, this is really cool. And you want to like stay there and be comfortable, but you're so used to that like feeling of like, ooh, no, I need to do more. You gotta do it all over again.
So what I would say as a takeaway inside of the double-edged side of growth is that just be prepared for it to feel. Like, we'll just leave it at that.
Yes.
Like, I feel like everybody wants to say, man, I'm about to glow up. I'm about to grow. Like, I want all this change.
And you will. You'll do all those things.
You will. But just from one person to another who just loves the opportunity to grow and to change and to challenge themselves, just take it with a grain of salt that, like, you are going to change. And it doesn't have to be leaps and bounds. Like, you don't have to be sprinting down this runway of change. Any amount of change, any small progression forward is still a progression forward. So make sure that you give yourself grace, time, ability, and really try to surround yourself with people who are also on that same journey. It makes the shit so much easier.
Way easier.
When you can look beside you and have an amazing conversation about how hard the shit really is, or how good you feel with the right type of energy.
Yeah, I agree. Surrounding yourself with people with similar mentalities helps so much more, because just even if someone does not understand your vision, having someone who supports whatever it is you're doing to grow is important. So keeping very positive and uplifting people around you through that journey will help you get through the really hard times too.
So I'd say
I like that.
So that is the double-edged side of growth, you guys. We hope that you have gained a little bit of something, a little bit of insight from this. It comes straight from the heart, straight from my own personal experience. So this is Mott
and Neek
signing off.